Because when people know you well, they can defend you. They can hold you accountable. They can speak to your character. They can speak to who you are. They can speak to what you bring to the table. And you need individuals that have that have your best interests at heart, that care about what's happening with you and what is going to transpire in your life. And you need that because you deserve it. I mean, simply put, legitimately, you deserve it. You deserve people caring about what's going on with you. Hi, everybody. Lee Scott here. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. We're here on this podcast. We talk about life, leadership, and legacy because we believe every person has a capacity and level of leadership. I am your host, Lee Scott, and I'm glad that you are back for this week's episode. Last time that we were here 2 weeks ago, I shared about this idea of holistic leadership because I shared with you that back in 2019, I actually did a teaching when I was doing live seminars and in-person seminars about this idea of holistic leadership. And so I was sharing those notes from that time, and I've expounded and expanded and even increased the conversation about those notes. But I said that I was going to do or talk about some more things as it relates to that. And I think I might have said earlier that you should subscribe to Leading with Lee on YouTube and all podcasting platforms, if I'm not mistaken. But I hope that you'll do that. And I hope that you've been listening. If you've been on the podcast feed, I hope you've been listening every week because you've been getting extra content from last season of Leading with Lee. But if you're on YouTube, you've just been getting it bi-weekly. So I'm super excited that you are taking out the time to engage with this content because we're here to talk about this subject today. But as I was saying, I, a few years ago, did a teaching about leadership. It was called Holistic Leadership, as I said earlier. And I'm going to share it with you today. 2 weeks ago, I shared two parts of that teaching that I hope was impactful for you. And I hope it challenged you to make a decision as it relates to your own spiritual and mental health, and that you're going to take some steps. So I'm going to talk about two other areas today. And I'm super excited to share that with you. But once again, I'm going to give you the subject of this talk today. This is Wholeness, Health, and Leadership Part 2. And I'm super excited that you are going to engage with this content. So let's get to what we always do on every single episode. From now on, I give my leadership definition to you. And so if you're taking notes or if you're reading or you're listening to this at work or maybe listening to this on your way home, just know that I believe that leadership is seeing something that has not happened yet and taking people, organizations, and personal processes in that direction. I believe that leadership is seeing something that has not happened yet and taking people, organizations, and personal processes in that direction. Now, as I stated on the last episode, we live in an environment that is about the grind. It is about, hey, man, I got to work hard to get where I need to get. I need to break my back to get where I need to get. But there's some things that has to happen that we have to fight against to actually deal with this issue. Because the reality is we need whole people. We need people that are living a productive life, that are fully healthy or fully whole in order for you to fulfill your dreams and live out the life that you want to live. So today I'm going to talk about two areas specifically that I think that we should continue to have this conversation about. And those two areas, as it relates to health, is your physical health and your relational health. The other episode, we talked about spiritual and mental, as I said, but we're talking about physical and relational. Those two are so critical. Because we talked about the inside, but now we're talking about the outside and what the effect of that has on your life. I want to give you some stats. In according to the Department of Health and Human Services, there's a particular council that is a part of Health and Human Services. It says that the President Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition, less than 5% of adults participate in 30 minutes of physical activity every day. Those are 5%. Only 1 in 3 adults receive the recommended amount of physical activity every week. Now, that's a huge thing because we're going to dig into this. But it's necessary for us to have some context for why physical health matters and why we should consider doing some things in our lives to improve our physical health. So this is my first point as relates to physical health. Exercise increases and expands a leader's quality of life. It is so important for all of us to take time to exercise. Now, it may not necessarily be that you have the money or the time to go to the gym, but if you would walk around your parking lot at your job, if you walk around your backyard, if you would in the morning do what I call, what I like to do is anaerobic activities, which you don't even have weights, but you do some processes that actually get you up and moving, get you back engaged and involved, and it allows your body to get active. Go for a run, do different things because you are trying to improve your quality of life and actually engage yourself in the process. Now, like I said just a second ago, you may not have the money to go and get a huge gym membership and spend a lot of time doing that. But just doing something like riding your bike, like engaging in swimming, doing something is helpful for you every day because it actually causes your brain, it releases endorphins in your brain for activity. I remember when I was working out all the time with a dear friend of mine and how much energy I would feel post working out than before I went working out. It was always very interesting to me that I would feel energized by lifting weights for an hour, by stretching for an hour, by putting my body through punishment and through work for an hour, because it actually gave me more momentum to go into my day with very directness and be able to be more effective at my job. And one thing that we have to recognize is that one of the crises that we have in America is that a lot of us are not physically where we could be or should be. And there's a variety of factors, obviously, and I'll talk about that more a little bit later here, but it's important for us to think about how can I be fully engaged? How can I be fully effective? Some of you have young children who may listen to this podcast. Some of you have older kids, and you want to make sure that your son doesn't dunk on you, or your kid may not, embarrass you in sports or whatever the case might be. But because of that, being active is so important. Being active is super necessary. Being active actually improves your quality of life and improves the way that you move and function in the world. I remember this one experience I had when I was younger. I went to this gym one time here in Jackson, Mississippi, and I remember very clearly. I went with my grandfather, my granddaddy, Mac, and we went to this gym, and they had like summer league or regular rec basketball. And there was one particular team that really got me because on this particular team, these were generally guys who were playing rec ball or probably in their late teens, early 20s, generally guys that didn't get an opportunity to play college ball, but they play basketball all the time. They're generally really good players. And I remember walking into this gym, and there's a particular team that was on the court were probably men all over the age of 60. And watching them play was so enthralling because these men were in phenomenal shape. I mean, one guy was playing so well, like he was playing like he was still in his 20s. He would get the ball, he would get off the dribble. He was just so slick with it, was still finesse. And even my granddad Mac was still balling back then. He's in his 70s now, and he still could probably ball out on some people. But like he was running full court with these guys. They were playing full court. They weren't playing half court ball. They were playing full court basketball. And this dude was up here just shooting jumpers. I mean, like it was nothing. But that activity that he had in his life allowed him to still, even in his old age, be vibrant and still be fully engaged in what was going on. You may not necessarily need to go play rec basketball all the time. I'm not saying that that's the only way. But just getting active, getting up, moving around improves your quality of life. And it actually makes your life a lot more free or better for you. Point number 2, as it relates to physical health. Physical health improves others' views of an individual or a leader. This is very true because I've seen it happen even in my own life. I have had a few friends who wanted to lose weight, and they might have gone on a keto diet or just worked out or done a certain thing. And it literally changed when they actually went through the process. It literally changed how people viewed them or saw them in person. Like they looked like different people because they were engaging in this practice of physical health and physical exercise. And this is an interesting thing because here's the reality. When we look at some people that are the most influential, generally, and this is not always true, but a lot of times, some of the most influential people are generally very healthy people, or what we quote unquote perceive as healthy, or what is our standard of beauty, particularly in America. Now, it changes from country to country. It changes from culture to culture, what they perceive as the beauty standard or the physical fitness standard for individuals. It changes and it varies. But generally, when we're having this conversation about this particular issue, it's very clear that individuals are affected by what they see when it comes down to that. And when a person meets the standard of what they believe is a standard, they tend to be affirmed, or they tend to listen to the individual because that person is actually the standard, or what they think is what's necessary for them to follow. And this is true in a lot of ways. And obviously we have seen athletes who are some of the, literally physically some of the most fit people in the world, right? A lot of athletes are extremely fit, and a lot of them make transitions into other spaces because in most people's minds, when they see a fit athlete, they think this person is disciplined, because fitness in our mind equals discipline. And we're not even factoring in that body type and genes or all those different things, but we get to have this perception, especially in America, about what physics or what fitness or what health looks like. And I'm going to share some of the categories as it relates to body types, because I think we really need to change some of our rhetoric around this conversation, because the reality is everybody doesn't have the same body type. Okay. Everybody doesn't have the same cards that's being played, but we have to figure out what looks healthy in your body, because you can't change your body type. You can't change your genetics. You can't change the fact that you come from a family and this might be what is just in your bloodline, but you can live a healthy life. So let's look at some of these categories. For men, there are 3 types of categories that are generally common to call. There's ectomorphs, which are men who are naturally slim or skinny, as they say, or lean, have a lean body type. Mesomorphs is men that are kind of in the middle. They're generally naturally more mid or naturally more muscular, because they're in the middle. And then there are men that are called endomorphs. They're a little bit on the larger side of the body type spectrum. Even with that being said, you can still be healthy in either one, right? For women, there are about 5 common body types that people will respect as the general thing. There is rectangle or athletic. There's triangle. There is spoon or / pear. There's hourglass, or there's round. And no matter what these body types are, we should be working very hard to do everything we can to be healthy. If that means changing your diet, if that means walking every day, if that means doing certain things because you're trying to engage whatever is going on in your body, it's necessary because your physical health is important. And also, too, this is just an aside, and I just thought about this, like literally getting up and getting active every day actually helps with blood flow for your brain. Actually clears up your mind. It actually releases enzymes, as I said earlier, endorphins in your brain, and it actually releases a lot of tension in the body because you are making an effort to engage in this way. So what does that mean for you? That means, hey, listen, if it means just 10 minutes every day, you get up and you walk around your house, you walk around your apartment, you walk in your yard, you're actually giving activity to your body that it needs and it wants to engage in. And I think that's super important for us to recognize that it doesn't have to be grandiose. It does not have to be big. One small step is actually going to lead to the next step, and is actually going to be very beneficial to you in the long run. But it takes you having the courage to take just one small step. Just one small step. Say, I'm going to dedicate 10 minutes. I'm going to dedicate 10 minutes of my time every day to go work out. I'm going to dedicate 10 minutes of my time to go and walk. I'm going to dedicate 10 minutes of my time to go engage my body in a way, because I want to be able to be healthy and productive in my life. And I think about this all the time. Listen, I'm looking forward to living a long, prosperous life. By God's grace, I plan to live a long and productive life. Even in my later years, I do not want to be walking around like, oh, I need so much help. Now, I'm probably going to need help in certain ways, but I want to ensure that I took care of my body, that I did what was necessary to be healthy and be health conscious about my physical health, because I recognized that it was necessary in my life. Because I have met people that were in their 80s. My grandparents are in their 80s, and my grandmother specifically is in her 80s, but even my one of my granddads is in his 80s, and most of my grandparents are in their 70s, and some of my family members are in their late 60s. And based on how they operate, they don't move and operate like folks who are their age, because they were physically engaging all the time. Now, by a variety of circumstances, they lived the lives they lived. Like my grandfather was a sharecropper here in Mississippi. Both of my grandfathers actually sharecropped when they were children in Mississippi. But my point is that physical engagement actually was beneficial to them in the long run. It was beneficial to them later in life, because that actually helped them be more productive in certain ways and be engaged and involved, or be fully locked in certain ways and how they engage in the world. And then point number 3, as it relates to physical health, it reduced health issues in the long term. As I just stated just 1 second ago, is that my grandparents, my family members, and people that I know who are in their 70s and 80 years old, 70s and 80s, are moving like they're still pretty young, because they have fully engaged in exercise. They fully moved around. They were doing things that would help them engage their whole body, their whole mind, their whole soul, because they were doing what was necessary. And I think that's important for you and I, is to not take our youth for granted. We need to do what we need to do as it relates to physical exercise and engaging, so that we can be that way when we're older. We can still do the things that we need to do, because that's super important, because it helps in the long term, and it's super exciting. I remember a few years ago, and we see with athletes, and that's the point I'm about to make. But I remember a few years ago, this basketball player by the name of Shannon Brown was in a car accident. It was a crazy car accident. Shannon was in his car accident, and literally his wife at the time, Monica, who's a singer, literally said some of the reason why he survived was because he worked out twice a day. She literally said the reason why he survived, doctors told her the reason why he survived was because he worked out twice a day. Could we be preventing ourselves from experiencing horrific situations because we work out, because we take or prioritize our physical health, because we are active in some way, shape, form, or fashion? What you need in your life is activity. You need to physically do something that requires you to move. Because moving is something that actually brings life and health into your spaces. The more sedated you are, the more you're going to be, more quickly you're going to be able to start feeling certain things. I mean, even I'm in my 20s, and when I'm not active as much as I should be, I sometimes am like, you know, I shouldn't be doing that. But it's because I'm not moving. It's because I'm not as active as I should be in some ways. And when I was active at some points in my life, I would do things really quickly. Why? Because activity is necessary and it's helpful. I remember a few years ago, it was a freak accident that happened with a basketball player by the name of Paul George. He was coming down the court and literally his ankle like snapped in half almost. And because of this physical thing, they thought it was going to end his career, but he literally came back the next season. Even this past football season in the NFL, my favorite football team, the Tennessee Titans, has a player by the name of Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry came back after about 9 weeks from I think, if I'm not mistaken, he had a broken foot or a fractured foot injury or something like that. But because of his physical health and because of science and because of the advancement that he has made, this brother came back in 8 weeks. Something that would literally take people 6 months in the past to recover from. He came back in like 8 or 9 weeks. This is possible for any of us. Now, I know they are some of the best athletes in the world, but it's possible for any of us if we actually prioritize and do what we need to do as it relates to our health. We can live lives that are very productive. Now I'm going to take a pause right here for a moment, and we'll be back right after this message.
Hi, everybody. Lee here, and I want to give some information to you. Do you need someone to host an event or come and speak at your event? You can now book yours truly. Book me for your event by visiting www.leeascott.com. I am so excited to connect with you and do work with you. Much love, and let's get started.
And we are back. And now we're going to continue to have this conversation. I'm glad that you're still here on Leading with Lee. But we're going to talk real quick about this last thing that I want to share with you as it relates to this. And I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation about health, because health is not just something that we talk about with the physical or even food wise. It's something that is involved in every aspect of our lives. We need health in every space. And so I want to get to this last one and last section I want to discuss and cover, which is all of us need relational health. We need relational health. And these are my 3 points as it relates to relational health. The first thing is every person or every leader, because all of you are leaders, whether you believe it or not, all of us are leaders, benefits from individuals who know us well. I know in my life, I've benefited significantly from friends and family knowing me well, because I was able to have some conversations about certain things that was affecting me, and it caused me to get some freedom in a lot of ways because I could actually be honest about some issues. And you may be listening to this or watching this, and you may have some extenuating circumstances, the reason why you don't have that. I think you should work as hard as you can to foster relationships to where people know you well. Because when people know you well, they can defend you. They can hold you accountable. They can speak to your character. They can speak to who you are. They can speak to what you bring to the table. And you need individuals that have that have your best interests at heart, that care about what's happening with you and what is going to transpire in your life. And you need that because you deserve it. I mean, simply put, legitimately, you deserve it. You deserve people caring about what's going on with you. And I think that's super important for you to understand. I think that's super important for you to prioritize and appreciate. Secondly, as relates to relational health, emotional intelligence gives leaders an advantage in engaging with their teams. I think it's important for you to recognize that you need to deal with your emotional intelligence. And I'm going to give you a definition. of emotional intelligence, it is defined as the capacity to be aware of, control, and express emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. Once again, the capacity to be aware of, control, and express emotions, to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. In other words, emotional intelligence is you understanding how to operate in any given situation. I shared on the last episode how it's so important for leaders to have equilibrium. It's so necessary for leaders to have balance in their lives. It's so easy or so needed for leaders to know how to respond in moments, because when you are not emotionally aware, you operate in ways that can be detrimental to your organization or the people that you're connected to. And that's super important for you to understand. You got to know how to respond or how to operate or engage people, because people are affected so much by what you do. And an emotionally intelligent emotionally intelligent leader is someone who has the capacity to engage people in an authentic way and be aware of the fact that they may or may not understand something. There's a 2016 Forbes magazine article that says being emotionally intelligent people are emotionally intelligent people are skillful at calming the mind and the body and see things clearly and objectively, become increasingly resilient to life's difficulties, and they also begin to see themselves and others with kindness. Wow. That's how powerful emotional intelligence is. Emotional intelligence gives you the capacity to operate with kindness. You are more gracious when you're emotionally intelligent. You are more understanding because you recognize, wait, they have issues too. I know I'm going to talk about therapy in this episode, but I want to just mention this as it relates to this relational health. It is because I've had friendships and have been able to talk about some issues. I was able to get some perspective and be more gracious to people. Some of you need to have conversations with your friends about certain things so you can hear them be honest with you about how you're viewing a particular situation. Now, you need friends that defend you, but you also need friends that will be like, actually, you were wrong in that situation. Or actually, have you ever considered that they might be coming from this perspective? Have you ever considered that they might feel this? And just getting a difference of opinion could be the key to transforming how you engage with the people you lead, how you engage in your relationships, how you engage in your friendships, how you engage in every aspect of your life, in your job, whatever it is. It can actually be a key to the future. But you got to understand how necessary it is for you to really become more emotionally aware and become more emotionally intelligent. And I think there's plenty of material. If you're on YouTube, please search, what is emotional intelligence? What is emotional intelligence? Like, look it up, read about it, get some understanding of why it's necessary for you. Because it's not just that we need you to have a great IQ, because we love IQs. We like, if people has a super efficient or high IQ, we love that. But we never wonder if that individual is emotionally stable enough to handle the pressure of what we need them to do. Because crises happens all the time. Crisis is a thing that happens all the time. We have crises always all around us, all the time. And we need emotionally intelligent leaders, emotionally intelligent people to be able to guide and move effectively in those spaces. But it takes you understanding and you taking time to become more emotionally intelligent, which means you got to become more engaged in understanding who you are. And the way you do that is through the relationships and friendships that you have, and also going to therapy. And here's my last point, and I'm going to get you out of here, is that relationships helps leaders lead with compassion. It helps you lead with compassion. I can tell you, I've experienced some leaders. I've experienced individuals who had position, who had power, who were not healthy, who were not productive individuals, and they operated at a level that was so unproductive and so not helpful for individuals that needed them, that I didn't want to work for them anymore. I didn't want to work for them because they were people that I saw to be individuals that were not productive in how they led. They were not productive in how they gave advice. They were not productive in how they transformed the lives of individuals they were working for. They were so busy trying to get things done that they didn't even care about the impact that it would have on the people that they were leading. And that's not a productive thing for you in your relationships. Your people that you lead should have a relationship with you. Hey, listen, they don't have to be your buddies. They don't have to be your friends, but they need to feel as if they can trust that you have their best interests at heart when you make decisions. Trust is a key in leadership. It's necessary because if people trust you, they'll follow you. If people trust your decision making, if people trust your heart, they'll follow you. If they can believe that you actually care about them, they will follow you anywhere. So what am I saying for you today? Is that it's necessary for us to consider our physical health. It's necessary for us to consider what is happening in our bodies and how we need to take care of our bodies and how we need to prioritize that. And when we recognize our relationships are critical to our success, because your relationships affect how you operate in your physical health. If you want to get back in the gym, your friends are going to the gym with you, there's accountability, right? There's some continuity there. There's some relational engagement there that you need in your life. I need it in mine, and I'm grateful that I have it. But we all benefit from relationships. And I hope that you remember today that you can operate in those relationships and you will engage them in new ways and new pathways. I enjoyed you being here with me today, and I hope that you'll go out and make a difference in the world. Much love, and let's get started. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. If you want to get more information and connect with me, visit me at www.leeascott.com or follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. So thank you for watching. Much love, and let's get started.